had some blood work done this week, so instead of the normal week in review video that you'd expect to see from me, here's a run through of my blood work and how it compares to the last lot. Hope you enjoy the video. Leave a like, comment and subscribe. Hope you enjoy. Here's my blood work comparison. So we have 3 lots of blood work that will be all side by side. I used Claude in order to do this, which has been a fantastic tool. So we compare the blood work results from a health phase, recomposition phase, and an improvement phase. From the recomposition, we then, based on the blood work, escalated the anabolic dosage into the improvement phase and made adjustments from there. So this lot of blood tests were done in order to make the next escalation. So you can see on the screen right now, you can see the liver support I've been running to combat a few problems, and the T4 background, which I have in as a replacement dose. So let's get into the first slide. I want to interrupt this video just to talk to you about supplements. As a competitive bodybuilder, my performance, my recovery, and my health are all super important in my life. This is why I have been using Train by JP supplements for the last 5 years now. They cover everything from your pre, intra, and post-workout nutrition. They also offer health and joint supplementation. They also offer a nice stack and save option, which means that you don't have to think about which individual products you need. They're all there in a bundle package for you with a discount. If you click the link in the description below and use the code GPS10 at checkout, you'll get a 10% off your order. Now back to the video. Here we are then. So we have our blood cells and clotting status to start off with. So the first thing I'm looking at on this is, because I'm running EQ, I'm looking at my hemoglobin and haematocrit. Now, typically for most people, EQ will raise this haematocrit value, meaning your blood is slightly thicker. Now, for me, it's actually kept it fairly stable. You can see here when EQ wasn't in, it was 0.48 on average, and it stayed there. It's actually reduced since April, which has been very, very nice. My hemoglobin has stayed steady. It's not moved at all, which is fantastic. And then all of the other values actually are very, very stable. The only thing, which is the RDW, which I'm not actually 100% sure what that is. So that's elevated ever so slightly, but it's still well within range. If anything, this was close, is better in range towards the middle ground than the others. So these are the things that I'm looking for immediately when I first open up anyone's blood work, is the hemoglobin and hematocrit and the mean cell volume as well. Just making sure that they're all in range, and then using Claude, as I say, to just check any trends, because this is what matters. What people don't realize in their blood work is it's not, is it in range now, but which direction is it going in? Similar to your weight, you know, if your weight is trending in the right direction, it doesn't matter where you currently are, it just matters where you're going. White blood cells. Now, this is something I've always struggled with. Now, you can probably hear from my voice, I'm quite nasally anyway. I struggle quite a lot with allergies, and I do use an antihistamine every day. Otherwise, I literally just can't breathe. So I would put this down to that. It's not something to worry about from an anabolics or anything that I'm doing external to my bodybuilding, or as far as I'm aware anyway. If you think differently, let me know in the comments, and I would love to be educated on the subject. So even though these are reducing, I'm not concerned and I'm not worried. The other bits and pieces are in range, and these two down here, the basophiles and the eosinophiles, I think I'm saying those right, are basically down to like your gut. So as far as I'm aware anyway, so I'm talking a little bit from memory here. This is down to, if your gut is inflamed, these would be elevated. So these look good to me. And similarly with platelets and MPV, all well within range. If anything, perfect range for anything like that. So I'm very happy with this page. It's marked in yellow. I think that's just the AI that's done it. To be honest, I wouldn't have flagged that at all. This would be the only cause of hey, what's going on there? And it might be something that I do check up on in my next health phase with maybe my GP or something like that. Now, on to the big subject, the liver, the kidney, and how your insulin resistance is. So what lots of people, when they look at blood work or talk about getting blood work done, as someone that isn't really in the space, to see if they need some testosterone, like maybe replacement therapy, or they're talking about doing a first cycle, these are the things that we want to be looking at first and knowing where these stand. So your liver and kidneys are what process any form of anabolics. They also process proteins and all sorts of bits and pieces. So when we're looking at these, what I'm really looking for is, first of all, how is your EGFR? EGFR being a kidney marker. How is your ALT being a liver marker? And if your ALT is slightly elevated, how is everything else? I'm also looking at your HbA1c, which is your insulin sensitivity. And this is not just blood glucose. This is over the last, I want to say 6 to 8 weeks, but it differs. And then, is there any issues with your proteins? So running through mine then, in February, if you looked at the Instagram post that I did, my ALT was slightly raised. Now, this could be down to just having a lot more muscle than my body really wants to have. It could be down to training quite hard. This is something where muscle is, when you have more muscle, there's a wastage that gets processed through the liver, and this is what the ALT is. So if you train hard, or you're more heavily muscled and eating a high protein diet, then these will typically always be elevated. So before going back on cycle here, I would put in NMN by Train by JP, and I put in injectable glutathione by Amino Kings. These are both things to help with that liver stress, and you can see that it had quite a profound impact. So down to 57. This wasn't a number that I was particularly comfortable with. In the long and short of things, it's not a bad number. You know, when you're getting into the, to be honest, you probably wouldn't even need to address it. I just would prefer to. So now that it was down at 57, great. It's gone back up to 67, which shows that obviously I'm using more anabolics. The food is slightly higher now. I'm in an improvement phase. I'm heavier. So these are all points that would go on to that. So I'm happy with this number. It's there. Nothing else to really be even concerned with in the rest of these liver markers. Creatinine kinase, same thing as ALT. This is a muscle wasting product that goes through your kidneys. And for it to be just out of range is not a problem. It's the high protein, it's the training hard. EGFR, this is something that I've actually messaged a few people about. It's still in range, but the trend isn't looking good, Brev. So this is basically your filtration of your kidneys. So it's still well above range. Really, really happy with the readings. It's not a problem. It's just the trend is, okay, we need to keep an eye on this. And this is why frequent blood work is important. So I'm looking at it, 85 when in a health phase, 80 beforehand, now 70. It's going to be a case of, there also might be an element of, with the heat, because we have had a really hot week in the UK, requiring more fluid. So there's also that factor. I'm going to get some more done in the next health phase, and we'll see where that is from there. SHBG is something else that I'd be looking at, which is sexual hormone binding globulin. And usually when you're on anabolics, it skyrockets. Or no, it suppresses. It goes one of the directions. It's difficult to tell or remember with myself, simply because it's always managed quite well. You can see it's managed quite well considering I am on cycle. Ferritin has gone up, but again, well in range. And HbA1c, now this is a key point. The fact that it is 25, 28, and 25, this shows that I'm incredibly insulin sensitive right now. So really, really happy with this. And yeah, let's move on to the final slide, I believe. I think we might have 2 more, maybe 1 more. We'll see. So now on to hormones, thyroid, and cholesterol. So first of all, let's talk about hormones, because this is probably where people are more interested in to see what actually happens. So you can see here that this is my testosterone. This is how much is being converted into free testosterone. My estradiol, or my E2. My FSH, LH, prolactin, and PSA. So testosterone, obviously, when I'm on TRT, we want it to be in range. The range is between 12 and 30, and I was on 150 milligrams of testosterone a week. I was at 24 nmol. So for you guys that are saying I need 200 to 250, that's where my TRT is without testing, I would question that and get a test done, basically. So then we escalated the dose and it brought it up to the 102, which gives me, I believe that was 600 tests, 300 EQ, and 300 MAST. We've then escalated it again to 800 test, 400 EQ, 300 MAST, and 100 MPP, bringing me to 174. So that's to be expected. Free testosterone, so the conversion was still pretty good on the TRT. So you can see here that this is the range, and it's still above range, which is great. The free test conversion has obviously gone up with the cycle going in, which is fantastic, because free testosterone is the stuff is really, really important to knowing if your cycle is working well. Estradiol was slightly elevated in this period, but that's to be expected because there was no management. There was just pure straight testosterone enanthate, 2 shots a week, and the controls a little bit harder to do. It's still in range, but you can see that once the EQ and the masteron kicked in, it then brought it right back down. This is something I've always struggled to manage. And then again, with the increase in EQ, masteron actually stayed the same. It then came to 81.2, which is where I'm really, really happy with. If at all possible, this can get down even lower for me, then it gives me more runway to play with. FSH and LH, as soon as you're on cycle, these are suppressed anyway, so it's kind of negligible. Prolactin, so this is a hormone that is produced by the body when you have, it's basically the post-nut hormone, really, if you want to put it crassly. So what this does is if your sex drive is out the window, your prolactin will be elevated typically. There's all sorts of different bits and pieces like this. There's things that can spike it, like smoking marijuana can increase your prolactin. There's all sorts to go alongside it, but the fact that it's being managed very, very well from being on cycle just shows that the management is going very well. So I'm using Turbogoline by Engineered Muscle for that. Sadly, TBJP don't make a product, but it's basically got P5P in it, which is a vitamin B6, which is something that I put in year round. PSA, so this is a prostate check. So you can see that it's been managed incredibly well. Now, I do use 5 milligrams of Cialis every day. There's been recent studies to show that microdosing Cialis reduces the size of your prostate. So as someone that's over 30, this is something that I'm interested in looking at for my long-term health more than anything. Thyroid, so TSH, so your TSH marker is basically your conversion from, it's your thyroid stimulating hormone. You then have a breakdown of free T3 and free T4. You can see here that I supplement 100 micrograms of T4 to keep this in range. So what we're looking at here, so the TSH has actually improved over that, but it's still below range. No, it's still above range. Ignore me. I read that as 0.2. T3 is slightly lower. Now, between about 2 weeks ago, we pulled supplementary T3 out at 25 micrograms every day. So I would suspect that this is still slightly suppressed, as this is elevated, and this is reduced. So I would expect that to be why. But the next lot of bloods will be done during a health phase now, and I would I'd hope this to have come up but we'll assess, and it might be a case of that in the next prep, it's kind of like T3 goes in from day one. I don't know. We'll discuss that when the time comes around. Cholesterol. So we've got total cholesterol, which is in great shape, and LDL, which is in good shape as well. If you were to be using something like Primobolan, this would be incredibly suppressed, but it's actually in really, really good management. Now, HDL is something that can elevate when you're on cycle, and the fact that it's actually kind of staying stationary. If we ignore this here, it's in a really nice spot. And yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. Usually this would be elevating, but the fact that it's reducing shows that I'm doing my bloody cardio. And the ratio is fantastic too with my triglycerides. So yeah, very, very happy overall with that lot. Some key talking points that the AI that I used has picked up on. So let's run through them and see what it says and see if I've got any comments on this. The reason I'm doing this is because lots of people are just putting their blood work into AI now to get it read. And I think that this might not be the most beneficial thing, as it's just picking up on the numbers rather than what's actually happened. So let's have a look through. So first of all, it talks about hematocrit. Hematocrit barely moving is saying it's reassuring, which is great, which again, I completely agree with. It's probably the most reassuring thing in the whole data set. Similar with oestradiol, however you want to say it. Dropped. So it's showing excellent management of being on cycle, which is great. White blood cells, which we touched on before, it's just noting the trend of going down. Again, it doesn't really have any major impact on my current situation, so it's just picking up on a trend. HDL, it's a big improvement, then dropped. So it's seeing the increase in HDL as an improvement and then dropping back down. Worth tracking on the next test. Now, I disagree with this because when you're on cycle, the fact that it's staying nice and low, not going sky high, is a very, very beneficial thing. So if anything, it's got this the wrong way around. HbA1c outstanding all the way through. Can't disagree with that. Stayed nice and insulin sensitive. ALT dropped from 91 to 57, then rose again. And it just kind of notes that this is probably down to being on cycle and increasing the dose, which makes sense. Creatinine elevating, and which we've touched on, so that's not a problem, but EGFR reducing, it's also noted, which I also think, as I touched on before, I think this is the thing that I'm going to keep an eye on the most. Ferritin, as I say, it doesn't really have any application to what I'm doing, but it's just noting the creep up, which is fine. I guess it's just picking up on the data, and it's just reading the data. And now free T3 as well. Now at the very bottom of the range, TSH rising as T3 drops. Again, we've touched on this. I think it's just a case of being slightly suppressed from T3 usage. And then PSA, it picked up on prostate. Slight rise, but still very low. Prostate health holding up despite significantly elevated androgens. Yeah, though, to be honest, most of it is relevant. Some of it, not so much. The ferritin, as I say, the white blood cells, probably not too dramatic. And the HDL, again, I think it might have just got it the wrong way around, but that's absolutely fine. Fairly useful tool as long as you know what you're talking about. I think it's really important to get someone that knows what they're talking about to analyze your blood work. So I think that would be the thing rather than just banging it into AI and seeing what happens. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions on my blood work or have anything that you think that I may have got wrong, whether it be my information about something, please just leave it in the comments. I'm always willing to learn. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next week.